There's a calm that covers me when I kneel down at your feet. It's a place of healing. It's a place where I find freedom. There's a place my eyes can't see, where my spirit longs to be. It's a place of healing. It's a place I'll live in freedom. I'm gonna lift my hands till I can reach heaven. I'm gonna shout your name till the walls come falling down. I've come to worship. I've come to worship. There's a love that lives in me for you, Lord, my Savior, King, who breaks a sin that's binding, leads us to a place of freedom. I'm gonna lift my hands till I can reach heaven. I'm gonna shout your name till the walls come falling down. I've come to worship. I've come to worship. I'm gonna sing my song like I am unashamed. I'm gonna shout for joy at the mention of your name. I've come to worship. I've come to worship. There's no one that can bring me peace, that can wash me clean like you, Lord. There's nothing in this world that can free me. You save my soul. I'm gonna lift my hands till I can reach heaven. I'm gonna shout your name till the walls come falling down. I've come to worship. I've come to worship. I'm gonna sing my song like I am unashamed. I'm gonna shout for joy at the mention of your name. I've come to worship. I've come to worship. I'm gonna sing my song like I am unashamed. I'm gonna shout for joy at the mention of your name. I've come to worship. I've come to worship.
Hello and welcome to this online broadcast from the Springs Church. I want to welcome you here, especially if you're part of our church congregation that meets with us on a weekly basis, and also for those who are tuning in from further afield. Well, today has presented itself a very unusual situation for us. If you are from the north, you may be looking at us and thinking, what's going on down here? But we are very unused to these kind of weather conditions down here. So today, for the sake of our congregation and transportation and your safety, we felt the best decision tonight was to be able to come to you and just greet you and be able to speak to you through this online service this evening. We do want to thank you for tuning in. I think even from your home today, God has given me a word that can bless you and will bless you if you take it into its right context. And so the word that I want to share to you tonight will be taken out of the book of Luke, chapter 10 and verse 38. And so we're going to begin reading there in just a moment. And the title of my sermon is Putting Your Cares into its correct context. Putting your cares into its correct context. Let me pray real quickly. Lord, I pray you would bless, Lord, our Lord, service today. Lord, every person who's tuning in, God, and is asking you that you would speak to them, Lord, that you would, Lord, in a supernatural way, meet every need. Lord, I pray you'd help me this evening to adequately share this message with your people. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's read together from Matthew chapter 10, starting in verse 38. Now it happened as they were entering a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore, tell her to help me. And Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part which will not be taken away from her. A very well-known story here about Mary and Martha, who were good acquaintances of Jesus. And here we have a time where Jesus has entered into their home, into their situation, into their environment. And we have two different characters that approach Jesus entering into their world with two very different styles. And I want to examine both of them just simply this evening. I know one thing for certain, after 4 years of living here in Jacksonville, that the people here in Orange Park and Jacksonville are an incredibly caring people. They care about where they come from. They care about what they believe in. They care about the country that they live in. They care about the culture that they come from. And they care a lot about sport. And let me tell you that in 4 years, I did not realize that there was as many Georgia Bulldog fans out there as I'm now seeing, and Jacksonville Jaguar fans that have just come out of the woodwork and available right now. People tend to care a lot about where they come from and what they believe and who they support. And caring is an important thing. We see this right here, that Martha is a very caring person. The first point I want to give to you tonight from this story is just because you care about something doesn't mean that you are correct in that very thing. So just because you care about something doesn't mean that you are correct. People across this world, you can go on social media today and you can find arguments, you can find debates, you can find people who are very passionate in their cares about certain ideologies, certain politicians, certain things that are going on in this world. People can be very passionate in their cares. But let me just reassure you and tell you today that just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean that that thing is perfect. Just because somebody gets up and raises their voice very loudly, or somebody who comes with a lot of enthusiasm or unction, doesn't mean that that which they are propagating is completely correct. And we must be very careful as the church today, in the generation that we live in, not to just follow anyone who is passionate or not follow anything that somebody seems to care about, but we must make sure that care is put into its right context, because just because you care about something doesn't mean that you are correct. Martha is here. We find her in the story. Jesus has entered into her world. Jesus has entered into her environment, and she immediately goes to something which is automatic to her, which she begins to get very busy, and she begins to serve and be diligent in serving Jesus. And this is her automatic way of showing that she cares. My second point I want to bring to you today is that according to the custom of this world, you may be correct, but still be in conflict with Christ. Now, you look at the story and you see Martha and Mary, two women in this day and age in Israel, and both of them are having an encounter with Jesus. Now, if you were to look at the custom of that time, one of them was doing what was correct to the custom of this world, and one of them was breaking accord with the customs of this world. Martha did what she was supposed to do. She was in the kitchen, serving, preparing, helping, meeting the needs of the people that had entered into her home to eat and to rest. And she was diligent in being a participant in making sure that that was correct. She was correct according to the custom, but yet she was in conflict from what Christ really wanted from her life. And listen, we as a church body today, there's a massive amount of pressure on us to talk a certain way, to think a certain way, to participate in things that come about in our lives at certain times. But just because we're in this world doesn't mean we're of this world. And just because everyone else talks a certain way doesn't mean that we as the church need to rise to those same levels of conversations. We are in this world, but we are not of this world. So according to the custom of this world, you may be correct, but be in conflict with Christ. You can be busy, you can be productive in your life, you can produce great homes, great environments, great success stories in your own lives. And according to the customs of this world, whatever you do to get there, it may be well with the customs of this world, but we have to make sure that it comes into line with what Jesus' plan is, what Christ's plan is for our lives. My third point for you today is, don't be a Christian who misses the mission. Don't be a Christian who misses the mission. God's promises to us are not dependent on our performances. Now, I don't know about you, but when I think about that, that brings me a lot of joy. It brings me a lot of hope. It brings me a lot of peace, that His promises towards me are not dependent on how productive that I am in my daily life. Here, again, we have a phenomenal example of how Martha is busy and she is productive and she is moving around the place, but she is missing the greater call, which is to sit at the feet of Jesus and hear what He has to say. And can I ask you today, right at the beginning here of 2018, what is your correspondence with God like? Because you can be a Christian, and if you were to go to Martha and say, hey, are you a Christian? Do you believe in Jesus? Do you support this person who is sitting in your home and has entered into your environment? She would say, absolutely. And even according to Martha, she would believe that she is doing the correct thing in her busyness, in her productivity, in her services, in all of the ministry that she is involved in. She would think that she is doing the right thing, but yet still missing the point of having a relationship with Jesus Christ. How is your correspondence with Jesus as you're going into 2018? Have you taken time to put everything aside, all of the service, all of the busyness, and take time to sit at the feet of Jesus and hear what He has to say? Here's a question that you should ask yourself, and everything that you do this year. It should not be, can we do this? But should we do this? In everything that we put our hand to, not can we do this, because we can do a lot of things. God has given us a lot of skills. God has given us a lot of abilities. And we can manufacture great things in our life. But the question is not, can we do this? But should we do this? And that's a great question to ask ourselves as we finish off this third point and move into our fourth point. Your ability to care is a limited resource, but God's ability to care is an unlimited resource. Now here we find the consequence of what happens when we take our cares out of context. And here is Martha, busy, seems like she's doing a wonderful work, but missing the greater picture. She eventually comes to Jesus, and listen to what she says in verse 40. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care? Do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone. Therefore, to tell her to come and help me. Do you not care, Jesus? And I think to myself, how this is such an incredible picture of so much of us Christians that fall into the trap of thinking that busyness equals productivity, equals success in our Christian life, when that's maybe never what God has intentionally asked us to participate in. But we come to this place and we find ourselves frustrated, we find ourselves worn out, we find ourselves coming to a place where we've given everything and yet we feel like we've received nothing in return, and we've done all of these great things, but yet when we look at it, we can come to Jesus, the one who's entered into our world, and we can misrepresent his place in that room and say, hey, do you even care? Do you even care that I'm here serving alone? Missing that Jesus absolutely cares. Think of the word care. In the English here we have the word care, but in the Greek we have merima. And that word can be translated to care, to worry, or anxiety. It can be care, worry, and anxiety. And the result of Martha's actions is to question God's action in her life. The result of Martha's actions in her life is to question God's action in her life. Jesus responds to her like this in verse 41. It says, and Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things. You are worried and troubled about many things. You care about many things. You are worried, you are anxious, you are concerned about all these things that are going on in the world. And listen, church today, church family, you could be in this place and you care about many things. You care about your family. You care about what's going on in our world today. You care about what's happening in America today and right across this world. You are anxious to see maybe even God move in a supernatural way. You are worried about many things. But listen, have you taken all of those cares and all of those worries and all of those troubles that you have, and have you taken them and put them into the right context? I believe the conclusion to this can be found in 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 7. And I want to read this to you. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 7. It says, casting all your cares upon him, for he cares for you. Casting all of your cares, all of your troubles, all of your worries, casting them upon his feet, because you cannot lose sight of the fact that Jesus cares for you. Remember, your care, your ability to care, is a limited resource. You will eventually run out of time, run out of energy, run out of effort, but God's ability to care in your life and in your situation and in your world is an unlimited resource. Let's recap real quickly before we close. Number one, just because you care about something doesn't necessarily mean you are correct. Number two, according to the customs of this world, you may be correct, but you still may be in conflict with Christ. Number three, don't be a Christian who misses the mission to sit at the feet of Jesus. Number four, your ability to care is a limited resource, but God's ability to care for you is an unlimited resource. And finally today, remember to cast all of your cares upon him. There's one story recorded in Mark where the disciples are in a boat with Jesus and a storm comes through, and one of the disciples comes and wakes up Jesus and says, do you even care about us? Do you even care that we're going to sink in the storm? Do you even care that our world is about to be turned upside down? And Jesus looks and he rebukes the storm, and immediately there is complete and utter calm. When we bring our cares to Jesus, he can do a supernatural work. Wellsprings Church family, I hope you were blessed. I hope you're safe. I hope you're warm. We're looking forward to seeing you this weekend. Pastor John will be beginning a new sermon series entitled Coming Home. It'll be a great time to invite out your friends and your family. We're super excited. We love you dearly. God bless.